Welcome back to Autoism. In the last video, I showed you the massive amount of parts we bought for this car. And the very first thing we're going to do to it today is the biggest safety concern. The brake rotors are shot, the brake lines are cracked, so we're going to get this car in the air, get the wheels off, pull the calipers, drain the fluids, pull the rotors off, and then work in reverse. So let's go. The wheels are off. So now let me show you what we're working with here. So here is our front brake rotor. Honestly, it's not too bad. But here we've got our caliper. We've got our bleed nipple here. But we can't use this to bleed the system because we're not putting any pressure on the system. So we're going to have to pull the caliper and then pull this hose from it. And then just let the hose drain out into our little catch can here. So let's do that. So once you get the caliper loosened and you're ready to take it out, then you want to disconnect the brake line from here. And to do that, you want to pull on the tab that's just sticking out just underneath it. Grab it with some pliers and pull it out. Oh. And eventually, you get it out. So we got some new ones of these, so this will go in the trash, and now we can get the line out. Okay, we'll just let that drain out, and we'll do the others. Now, while we're waiting for that, we can take the caliper off. So we just finished the bolts in the back that we started. One bolt. Two bolt. Pull the caliper off, and here it is. Whoop! Don't tip it, brake fluid comes out. So when you look at the back side of the caliper, you see your pads. Mine are actually still pretty good, but they're really old, so I'm going to change them anyways. If you pull one out, oh, I can't. They're stuck on the rail. So you can see that they're actually hooked onto these pins on the back here. So we'll pop the pins and then we'll pull the pads out. The two pins are held on with this sort of butterfly thin metal wire here. So we'll just pull it out of that clip there. It's released from that one. And then we'll pull it out of this one. Come on. Might need a screwdriver. There we go. And now, there we go. So we've got this metal bar out. The pins are no longer held in with the bar, so we can just hammer those from this side and they'll pop out the top here. So we've got a pin here. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. Pull the pin out. and it should just pull upwards. There we go. Oh. Trying to do this on the camera is difficult. But there's one brake pad. Mine are still really thick. It's like they're brand new. New but old. And then keep pulling the pins out. Oh. There we go. Got the pin. Pull the pad. And then you've got the original pad. Here's the caliper. Looks like a single piston caliper. And we can get this cleared up with some brake cleaner. And maybe we can even paint it. We'll see. There we go. So don't do what Johnny Don't does. See that bolt that's stuck in there? Well, I cracked the head off of it. You don't want to do that. This one came out great. This one, not so much. So we're going to try and get this bolt out of here now because I'm trying to remove this caliper and it will not come off. I can push it out about that much, but I can't get it out over the bolt. It's just stuck on there. All right, day 2, and here is where we are at. We got this caliper off. We're able to easily pop it off from the back there. We got the fuel line out. We got the brake fluid drain from there. This is the rear wheel. This is the one we just did last. We got the caliper off from here. There's the caliper. Still has the brake pads in there. And we got the brake fluid draining here into the pan. All the other ones are drained already. So what we have to do with this one now, and same on the other side as well, we've got to pop this little spacer piece off here, put a little bar in there and pop it out. And then we're going to get in behind here, pop the rotors off, rotor on the other side as well. The front one's a little bit different. On the front, we got to pop this cap off right here. Get in there and pull a little piece out from the inside there, and then this whole hub and rotor assembly is all going to come off at once. Now, if you're wondering what we did on this other side with the broken caliper bolt, well, here's the bolt. And what I ended up doing actually is I used this handsaw, believe it or not. It's a hacksaw. And I used that in between the caliper and the knuckle back here. And let me just give you a better shot here. So this is the back of the rotor, the knuckle. And then you can see where that bolt is that I cut off so I could get the caliper off. And I can't, there's not quite enough of a lip on it to get some vice grips on it. I'm probably going to have to weld a nut onto this so that I can turn it out. Either that or drill it out, but I can't even fit a drill in here to drill it out. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet, but that's a tomorrow problem. But that is it. All of those are off. Next step is to get the rotors off. The only thing I'm wondering is the car is up on 4 jack stands, but it's actually only 3 jack stands. For some reason, this one is not holding up anything. You can't really see. It's not bright enough. Let me see if I can turn the light on here. it's supposed to be holding up this part of the car. I don't know how this magic is happening, but it looks like it's only supported on 3 of them anyways. Weird. Well, not something I need to worry about right now. I'll just keep it under there just in case. Okay, so we've got to get this front little semicircle piece off here. There's a slot in here that you can put a screwdriver or punch or something into. And I'm just going to tap, tap, tap it with the screwdriver. And there you go. It's out. And this is what we have inside here. So this inner piece here is just going to spin off, but we've got to loosen it first. So we're going to need to line this entry hole for an Allen key here up with the little groove in the outside piece here. And then we're going to stick a 6mm Allen key in there and spin it out. Okay, we got our 6mm here. There we go. Doesn't take much to break it free. It's not on super tight. And then this piece, you can literally just spin it with your fingers. And it comes right out. There you go. Now this piece support the rotor, and this piece here should just pull right out. Don't drop this. Don't allow it to hit anything dirty. This is going to be your bearing, wheel bearing. So lay this somewhere clean. Okay, and then this hub and rotor should all pull right off as one piece. There you go. There's the back side. So I'm going to separate this hub from the rotor so I can put the new rotor on and then just reverse the process and go backwards. Okay, so what we've got here is the rotor, and we've got the hub on the other side of it. And what you're going to need to take this apart is, you can probably see there are a bunch of nuts there, or bolts on the back side there. These are 13mm. And then inside in there, you can see there are also 13mm bolts, nuts on there. So you need to hold one side with a wrench and then get at the other side with a wrench and then turn the two of them simultaneously and get all these out. Okay, that's all of them broken. There you go, separated. Here we got the rear. These are a little easier because the hub does not have to come off with the rotor. The rotor just comes off independently. But we do have to get this little front spacer piece off first. And so I'm just going to hammer. Well, I was going to hammer a screwdriver down in there, but it looks like it just pulled right off on its own. So, okay, let's pull this off. That was easy. Lay that to the side. And then we've got a Phillips screw right down here. We're just going to get that out. Before I get that out, I'm going to tap on the rotor a couple of times to loosen it up because these screws are usually seized, and I have no doubt that this one's going to be seized. So I'm just going to tap around. Okay, now let's get a Phillips screwdriver. And there we go, just cracked loose. Now we just spin it out. Here is the screw. If all else fails, get a bigger hammer. There we go. There we go. Just released. And now we can just pull it right off. And that's our rear brake rotor. One other job that I'm going to tackle is these here. This is parking brake shoes. So these go here around the outside, and we can take these old ones off and put these new ones on. First thing you want to do is turn this hub, line it up with the screw that's on the inside there. You can just see the screw there. And so you want to put this through, get a screwdriver, compress the spring, push it in, give it a twist, and then it pops right out. Do the same thing on the other side, which I've already done, and then just pop the shoes right off. Okay, and here is what the shoe will look like once it's taken off. So this part was on the bottom and this was on the top. And all I did was I pulled this spring out of that hole, pulled it out of that hole, took the tension off. This just came apart and this was in there. And now these pivoted out, easily came off. So they came off of there. And now instead of using these, we are going to use these. So let's get them put on. These are our new rotors. Nothing fancy, but definitely better than what was on there. So let's put these on the car and then put it all back together. Now we have got the new parking brake on the back here. We've got all the little springs and everything put back on the way we took them off. You can see there's a little adjuster here. You see all the teeth right here? So you can turn these teeth to make the parking brake, to expand it or contract it. And if your parking brake is not engaging, then that's what you want to adjust. While you're in here, you can just turn this by hand right here or use a tool to turn it. If you've got the whole assembly on here, if you've got, let's say you've got the rotor on there, then you can still access that. There's a little hole here and you can reach in there. Well, that's supposed to line up. I don't have the rotor on correctly here, but if that, let me see here. This way. No, this way. There. So that'll line up with the access hole, and you can adjust it this way like this. You don't have to take the rotor off, but that's what you're adjusting. So I'm going to have to do that because my parking brake was not engaging at all. And this was on the minimum setting, so I just had to expand it so that it pushes out a bit and catches the rotor. So let's get the rotor back on. brand new screw. And bam! The new rotors are on, front and rear. So now we've got the parking brake shoes installed, the new shoes. So we can turn this wheel here, turn the hub. We go around to the other side. We can turn this hub. But when we apply the parking brake, the hub no longer turns. So the shoes inside are grabbing the hub and not allowing it to turn. So the parking brake works, yes. Now the parking brake doesn't come up as high as before. It used to come up to around here, which made it harder to get in and out. I prefer this height. And that way I know it's on, it's engaged, and it's just putting it back down, and then we're good. So next step is to do the brake lines. Now the brake lines are these guys. So these are steel braided lines as opposed to the flexible rubber hoses, which have already cracked. These are no good. They're also not focusing. But we're going to replace them with these lines. So this longer one has to connect to here, the hard line, and then the other end of it connects to the caliper. The only thing I'm wondering is the rubber hoses have this rubber grommet on them. Well, maybe I can pull this grommet off. Oh, I can pull it off. Okay, so I'll pull that grommet off. I'll put it on this line because the line needs to get seated into here so that it doesn't get caught up in the wheel. And in the back, we've got these shorter lines as well. And they go. In the back, it's a little different because the line that comes into the caliper is a hard line. But if we follow the hard line back, we get up into here. There's a hard line. Let me see if I can turn the light on here. There's the hard line. And then it meets the flexible line. So this flexible line is the one that we're going to replace with the steel braided line. Let's do that now. Well, as you can see, we got our steel line in here. So we replaced the old rubber line. Got it all screwed in. Looks good. On the other side, I tried to do it and I stripped the nut on the end of the brake line. So we're going to deal with that later. But we're going to come over to the passenger side here. And we're going to deal with this mess. So I got the hub off easily. But you remember that we had this bolt that was stuck in there. And so we're actually going to drill it out from the backside. So we're just going to drill it and then we'll see what happens. Well, we have met certain disaster on the Porsche. So if we get underneath the car here, we see, where am I looking? Oh, I need the light. Okay, so we see that I was trying to remove the hard brake line from, I can't even get my finger up there to point. Where's my, okay. Trying to remove the hard brake line there, and we rounded off the nut. It's completely round right now, so I can't get a wrench on it. I put some vice grips on it that just made it worse. It is completely seized on there. This is the soft line side. I don't even need this. I can cut it. I'm going to replace this with a steel one. It's not even attached on the other side right now. But I cannot get these apart. Now, what I could do maybe is cut the hard line and then put a new end on it and reattach it. But it's pretty tight in there, and I'm wondering if that would even work, because would probably be too short at that point. Well, almost definitely too short. So I might have to replace the entire hard line, and if I do that, the hard line goes up there, and then you can see, I'm assuming that's the other end of it. It goes up there and goes around what I guess is the gearbox here, up there, and it's attached above the gearbox. If I replace the hard line, how do I even detach it up there? Like, it's attached somewhere up there, and I don't even know how to detach it. Okay, so it comes back down here and goes around there, and then it goes up towards the front of the vehicle. And I'm assuming, I probably lost you here, but I'm assuming, what am I, okay. I'm assuming I disconnected it from here, which is the line that goes to the front of the vehicle. And that's the line that goes up there. The other line goes here to the passenger side, but this line I disconnected is the one I believe is the one I'm trying to get out, that goes up and around. Goes up and around there. But if I were to pull it out, how do I even detach it? Like, it's somewhere attached up there. How do I get that clip out? Well, if you know, let me know. Keep working on this. It is out. Here you can see the brake line. That's the other end. Here's the end we were working with, so we completely rounded that off. It still won't even spin. I had to spin the other end, this end here. So I spun this one to get it off, just kept spinning. What I actually did was I put WD-40 on it and let it soak overnight, and then that penetrated it. Came back today, put some vice grips on this end, put a wrench on this end, and just kept spinning this, and it broke free. So we got that out, and we did in fact just have to pull this out of the clips. So we'll go underneath the passenger side, and you can see, you can see the clip. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see there's one, the line I just took out is missing from that clip. And then it was up over there as well. I just routed it out, took it out around, pulled it out. Took me about 10 minutes to get the line out, trying to bend it and route it out through. But we got it, and now I got the line out. And I'll just have to buy a new one of these. These are only 10 or 15 bucks at the parts store, so I'll have to buy a new one, bend it to shape. These bends here might be a little difficult, but otherwise it should just go right in there. We'll see how that goes. The other thing we need to tackle now is we still have to get the rest of this bolt out. So we're going to try getting some drill bits in there and see if we can drill that out without ruining the threads. Okay, so we're going to jump around a bit here. While I'm waiting to go buy a new brake line, I'm going to put the calipers back on the front here. So what the caliper bolts that came off were these bolts with this little washer on them. And the new ones that we've got are replacement bolts, this part number, and also what's called a spring washer, which is what goes on there, this part number. And we're just going to use those to put the caliper back on. I'm not sure how much of this you can see, but the kit that I bought came with the new butterfly piece we'll put in. the new push pins that'll keep the brake pads in. And it also came with this funky little wire piece that will keep the brake wear sensor routed. Now, this is a 1983, so even though the brake pads have the little clip to put the sensor onto, there's nowhere to actually plug it in. So we won't be using any sensors on this car. But we'll put this little clip on here anyway, since it came with the kit. And we'll put this little butterfly piece in here. And then we're going to filter this through here. If you're trying to put this in and it won't go in because it's hitting the brake pad that's too low, you can just kind of push the caliper piece forwards and it'll line everything up. It'll pull the brake pad forward. So I'll do that. Put that in. Put the little butterfly piece in here. Oh, I had it backwards. Okay, so it goes in like this. Hook it up under one bar, put it in, bend it down, and in there like that. There you go. All right. Hammer these in. And then clip this around on the back side. There we go. There. And that's a brake caliper done. Well, we've got a solution to our brake line problem. So I did manage to pull out the brake line from under the car. And this is what it looks like. It was routed all nicely up around the gearbox and had some nice bends in it like this. But we had to bend the crap out of it to get it out of the car and just kind of yanked it out. And this is our solution to that. So we've got a 51-inch copper brake line. Picked it up at Canadian Tire for $23. The line that came out of it is 44 inches. So this one is 7 inches too long, but that just means I'll have to waste 3.5 inches on each side by putting some extra bends in it, but that should be totally fine. So this here was way cheaper. If I were to get the actual brake line from Porsche that is cut to fit and also already has all the bends and all the ends on it, it was $230 US. So this was 23 bucks. And this was $20. This is a pipe bender. So this just goes on here. Get on there. How does it go on? Here. And then as I rotate this, it puts a nice bend in the pipe, just like that. But we can bend this back because we're not ready to bend it yet. And we're going to get this underneath the car and get it routed relatively in the right way that the other one came out. So let's see if we can get this one routed. Here we go. Well, we've had some moderate success. We have got the brakes and calipers back on each corner. And you're probably looking for an update on the two issues we were having. Number one, this front corner, you'll see it's all back together. So we had major issue with this. This actually took me a month to fix. So the reason I didn't film all the reassembly of all this stuff is just because it took so long and there was so much work. I cracked the bolt off in this caliper. I had to saw the bolt to get the caliper off. There wasn't enough bolt left to spin it out. I had to drill the bolt out. Then I had to use a Dremel to clean it up. I started to tap it. I cracked the tap off inside the bolt. Then I had to drill out the tap. What an ordeal. It was a total nightmare. But I finally got everything drilled out and tapped correctly. I got the bolt back in and everything's back together. So I got the new brake pads in. This butterfly clip and these pins. Well, the pins were here, but the butterfly clip was not there when I took the calipers apart. But they came in the set, so I put the new ones in. And we got this all back together. The speed sensor clip is back on here. And this corner, more of the same. We've got the caliper, everything, all the lines are run. So this is the issue with the line that had to be replaced. And I'm going to give you an update on that here in a second. We're just going to get underneath the car and I'll show you. So here we go. Don't want to hit the jack stand. So what we did, instead of replacing this line with the Porsche line, which was almost $300 US, I went to Canadian Tire, just an auto parts store, and bought this line for, I think it was like 15 bucks Canadian. And so it's threaded into here underneath the car. Line comes back, it threads in here. I just bent it with my hands and routed it right up where it went initially. And then it goes up over, I think this is the gearbox drive shaft. It goes up over that, comes down the other side. And the part that I bought was 7 inches too long. Instead of 44 inches, it was 51 inches. So when I came up here on the other side, all I did was I put a U in it. So instead of going straight across, I just made a U, wasted the 7 inches of extra space, extra line, go into the brake line, put in the flexible hose that I had bought initially to replace the rubber one, and then just kept going. So that was an easy replace. I was actually surprised how simple that was. Just bending it by hand, trying not to kink it, and that was really it. So now we're going to move on. So next step is bleeding the brakes. So the lines are completely empty at the moment because I had the calipers off for a month and just had the lines empty. They drained out, so the full brake system is empty. The reservoir is here, so this is empty as well. No fluid in that, which means there's going to be air introduced into the brake lines, obviously. So we're going to bleed those. We've got a motor bleeder. We're going to do that, get the brake pedal back. This is also the reservoir for the clutch. So we're going to have to also bleed the master cylinder and the slave cylinder after we do that. But we'll do the brakes first, and then we'll do the clutch later. All right, we have the wheels back on the car. It's still up in the air, but we've pressure bled the system, topped off the brake fluid. As you can see, it's above the minimum line, below the maximum line. So we got the brake fluid topped up. All of the calipers are bled, the brakes are good. So inside the car, we have a nice and firm brake pedal, and surprisingly, the clutch pedal still pops right back out. So I think the clutch is actually still fine. I was going to bleed it because I thought the clutch was going to go to the floor from lack of pressure, but it looks like we can actually just go ahead and drive it now. I am still going to bleed the clutch because the fluid that's still in the master cylinder and slave cylinder is the old fluid, and it's been sitting a long time. We need to get that fluid out of there, so I am going to still bleed the slave cylinder, but after we do that, we should just be able to take it for a drive and should be good to go for a test. So we need to get underneath the car and bleed the slave. So let's do that now. So we are under the car here now, obviously. And that was a wrench. And here is the start motor. So we're going to have to remove this, starting with this bolt right here and the one on the other side right there. I think they're 19. They might be 21 actually. I'll have to check. But they're a big bolt. We're going to get those off. Pull the start motor off and disconnect it. Make sure you got the battery disconnected, because if your wrench touches those two terminals here, it'll actually crank the motor. And that's definitely not something you want to hear when you're under the car. So disconnect the battery, take start motor off. Once start motor is off, then we can access the clutch slave cylinder, which is above the start motor. And so we're going to get this out now, and then we're going to bleed the clutch. Okay, plot twist. I won't be bleeding the clutch today. So we've got the start motor disengaged. Here is the flywheel. I don't want to move that. That's timed correctly. So start motor is out of here. Now here is our clutch slave cylinder. And right on the end of this is supposed to be a bleed nipple. And that's where you hook on the hose and you loosen it and then you drain it. My bleed nipple apparently has cracked off. So this clutch slave cylinder is garbage. Well, it's working for now with the fluid that's in it, but I will have to replace it since I do want to have a bleed nipple. So we'll have to unbolt this at some point, not today. So I'm just going to put the start motor back on, put the car back together, and then drive it. So this is something that we'll have to replace later. Well, I got some bad news for you guys. I was about to do a video about starting this thing up and job being done and driving it off into the sunset. But let me show you what happens when I start it. So I'm going to put the key in here and turn it. And what's going to happen is you're going to hear turn the light on here. It doesn't help much, but you're going to hear the starting motor, which is right there, is going to click over and whir because it's spinning, but it's not going to engage the flywheel. So let's hear it. On position, and then listen to this. Hear that? That is a starting motor with a bad Bendix gear. The gear is not extending and engaging the flywheel, so I got to take starting motor off, grease it up, and get the Bendix gear to come out. Let's give it a shot. So, some good news and some bad news. The good news is that I got underneath the car to take a look at the starting motor. I actually got under there to pull it off. And turns out I didn't need to pull it off. The terminals on the end were just rusty and weren't making a good connection. So I cleaned up the terminals on the end, tried starting the car, and it started up perfectly fine, no problems. So the starting motor is good. However, I took it to the shop to get, I'll show you what I got. I took it to the shop to get a new steering rack U-joint, which is down there, somewhere down there. But it has a new steering rack U-joint. The old one was worn, so we got that done. And then when I got it back from the shop, unfortunately, the parking brake did nothing. So I pulled up on this and came all the way up and nothing happened. So I decided I'll take the wheel hubs apart and find out what the problem is. So as you can see here, there's this piece here. So this piece when I flick it, this is like the butterfly expander, sort of, that pushes out on both ends, and it pushes out on this shoe, one on the other side as well. But when I flick this with my finger, it's sturdy. It's in there pretty well because it's wedged in there and it's connected to the cable. However, if I come to the other side, and I look at this one, you can see the cable is in there, and there's a pin through the prongs on the end of the cable. But the butterfly expander is here. So if we look at this, this circular piece here needs to go in between those, in where that pin is, so it's held in place by the pin, which I had done, but the problem was I didn't realize I was missing these clips. So this clip goes on the end of the pin, and it holds that pin in place so that the butterfly expander no longer pops out and it's nice and sturdy. And once I can get this pin in here, which I just received from my local Porsche dealership, then my parking brake should work again. I just need to put that on the end of the clip there, on the end of the pin, and we should be good. So let's put that on there and get all this back together. And we have success, I believe. So we got the parts back in the bottom of this here. And so we got that butterfly clip back in, and it's hooked into the brake line cable. And we got the shoe all back together. Shoe is on there. And we got this dialed in properly here. So what we have here is this little gadget. And we stick our screwdriver in through the hole here. And we can flick this upwards or flick it downwards with this wheel. And it spins, and you can see that there's a little bit of a gap in between here. You can see the silver, and that's how much I've spun it. So I've given this 15 turns, which when I put the rotor back on and then pull up on the handbrake goes up 3 clicks. If I pull hard enough, I can get the 4th click, but 3 clicks is about where you want it to be to engage. And so that's how you adjust that right there as you spin this little wheel. You can actually access that wheel as well through one of these portholes here. I think this one actually is the one you use with when the rotor is on, so you can still adjust it. But now we're going to get the rotors back on and test out the parking brake, and everything should be good. Sorry I didn't get a chance to film it, but as you can see, everything's been put back together. It went back together no problem. It's been working flawlessly. I've been driving the car probably for about 4 months now. And as you can see, it snowed recently, so all future projects will be on hold until the spring. But just wanted to give you guys an update that everything worked out perfectly, and the brake change was a total success. Thanks for watching.